Sure. My name is Stevens Plowman, and I'm president of Bayard Business Capital and Consulting. For some background, I ran a community bank for about 30 years, retired 5 years ago, started my current company. We've got about 8 other semi-retired community bankers, most of us in the St. Louis or Illinois area. Our primary focus the last 5 years has been on commercial real estate and SBA lending. Obviously, from what's happened here in the last month and a half, we've had a huge change in our focus to the SBA. Most of our commercial lenders are actually kind of pulling back at this point in time. To try to give you a big picture of what's happening here is the 2 programs that are coming through the SBA right now are really being driven by the U.S. Treasury, and they're being funded through the SBA. So these 2 programs to help the country right now are not the normal type of funding programs the SBA has. And it's new to the SBA as much as it is to the lenders and the borrowers that are going to be involved with it. In a normal year, the SBA normally gets about $30 billion in authorization to guarantee loans. And with this last package that was approved, $340 billion. So they've gone from an organization with used to working at a level of $30 billion, now trying to get their hands around trying to work with funding and guarantees of some $340 billion, over 10 times of what they used to do. So with that, they themselves are overwhelmed. Their systems are overwhelmed. Again, it's a U.S. Treasury program flowing through them. So every question someone presents, if they don't know the answer, they've got to go back to the U.S. Treasury to get their answer. Their computer systems and their portals were all designed for one level, which is 10 times less than they currently are. I see a lot of bad press about the SBA right now on a national level, rolling this program out. And I've personally had a lot of frustration with the SBA over the years, but at the same time, they're really doing a great job with the tools they have to get through this. So, I mean, they've been given a very difficult mission here. Setting all that aside, now then there have been 3 different approved programs by the legislature. And each time they approve a new program, they go back and change the previous programs that have already been approved. So that also has created a lot of confusion, because the first one I'm going to talk about is the Disaster Recovery Program. And it was approved at the very beginning of March, and then it was changed dramatically 2 weeks ago. So things that I would have talked about, or a bank would have talked about, or some other professional in this area changed dramatically in those two weeks. So there's 2 basic programs, and the first one I want to talk about is the Disaster Recovery Program. And I keep getting the initials mixed up, but it's EIDL. EIDL is the way the SBA refers to it. And this is a traditional disaster recovery program for them. So just like if the tornadoes came through St. Louis and damaged all the property like they did in Joplin, this would be the type of program that they would roll out. So under this program, you have to have a loss that's been caused by the economic downturn. If the next program I'll talk about later is a stimulus program, and you really don't need a loss. But under this program, you do. And under the EIDL program, you actually apply directly to the SBA. And they have a 2-page application. Loan amounts, I understand, that have gone through there as small as $3,000, and the maximum is $2 million. It's an actual loan itself. I think the last time I heard it, they haven't changed it again. I think the interest rate was 3.8, and then it was less than that if you're a nonprofit organization. I believe it was 2.8. They've changed the program again a couple different times since it was originally rolled out. Under this program, originally you had to have collateral and a personal guarantee. They've waived that part of it unless your amount is over $200,000. So if you've incurred losses greater than $200,000 and you're applying for that, at that point in time, you will need a personal guarantee and collateral. Within the disaster recovery program too, what's gotten a lot of people's attention, after you get all the way through their application at their portal, the last question in there is, do you want a $10,000 grant? And I've yet to see someone who doesn't want that. So you can go all the way through the application, and I've talked to other people who missed that last question, so they didn't click it, but their application has already been now submitted, and no one knows if you can submit another one to correct that issue. So kind of be aware of that. You go to the SBA Disaster Recovery website. There's a portal there, and again, it's a 2-page application. You need to have all your tax documents in front of you when you sit down. It's an antiquated system. It's overloaded right now. They used to have a couple hundred a week that send in applications. This would be for a tornado somewhere that's been designated a disaster recovery. And now they're dealing with 10 to 20,000 a day that are going through that system. The system goes down, it locks up, it's slow. Most people I've talked to that have filed under that system, it's maybe taken them as much as 2 hours. And a lot of them are going at 2 o'clock in the morning to submit under that system. But again, there's a $10,000 grant with it. Even if your loan is turned down, your grant does not have to be repaid. If your loan request is approved, it will be rolled into the grant. I mean, if your loan is approved, your grant amount will be rolled into your loan. Again, I think I said the interest rate was, I think it's 3.8 right now. And then it's paid back on a 30-year amortization. And there is an automatic 12-month deferral process. So your first year under the disaster recovery program, there are no payments. And then after that, it's 30 years. And there's also no prepayment penalty. I'm strongly encouraging anyone who has had any damage to automatically apply for this program. Going back to the inputting the data on the portal also, I also understand it won't save it. So if you get halfway through the application and you have to go somewhere else and do something, you can't save that and come back and redo it again. As I've said, it's a fairly antiquated system. The other program the SBA has put in place, which is now what's in the news line all the time, is the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. Is what it stands for. This is really not a traditional credit issue. This is a stimulus that they want to get out into the economy to different businesses that they don't want layoffs from those businesses. Under this program, it's also forgiven if you use the funds correctly. It's really geared to businesses with W-2, but sole proprietors can apply this coming Friday. They can't apply until Friday, or independent contractors can also apply starting Friday. Under this program, you go through the banks. You do not go through the SBA. the application submitted, all the banks have them now, is uniform. But after that point in time, each individual bank is going to make their own criteria of what they need to approve the loan, a recommendation that the loan be approved to the SBA. So one bank may require one set of documents and another one may require a totally different set of documents. Almost all of them are requiring the 940 and 941 for your payroll taxes. This amount is supposed to be, well, this amount is the average payroll that you have times 2.5. And that's the maximum amount that you can apply for. They will take the 12 preceding months of your payroll and average it, and that 2 times 2.5 is the amount. Right now, I'm seeing the banks all over the place. Multiple banks are saying they're simply not going to participate in the program. You have other banks that are saying we're going to participate in the program, but only for our customers. And then you have a variety of nationwide banks that are saying that we're going to go for anyone who can apply and is approved for this program. There's been a lot of confusion because the SBA has not granted the banks enough guidance for them to understand what the SBA will hold them to after the loan has been made. So the premise of the loan, again, is to support payroll for employees. After a loan has been received, if 75% of that loan amount is used for payroll and the remaining 25% of that loan is used for either utilities, rent, or the interest on your normal monthly loan payments, the loan is 100% forgiven. So the process here that the lenders envision would be someone would come in, apply for the loan would be approved. You have 8 weeks to use those funds in that manner that the loan would be forgiven. Then you reapply back to the bank, provide them the documentation that your funds were spent in that manner, and then your loan's forgiven. All of these loans automatically, at least 6 months, have deferred payments. So there will be no payments during that period. If you did not spend the funds in that 75%, 25% proportion, you will end up with a loan at 1% with the lender, and it has to be amortized over 2 years. That's the basic program. Now that I've sat through maybe 3 different direct webinars with the SBA, and they have changed certain details each time. 10 minutes before this phone call, I got an email from my bank, and I'm still on the board of the bank that I used to run, and so I'm still tied into their communications. Anyway, the SBA has called for another webinar with all of the St. Louis banks at 4 o'clock today to give different guidance of everything I just said. So again, the SBA's got a terrible, difficult job here right now, and trying to figure out how to spend $340 billion with only given about 30 days to figure it out is what's causing all the problems. They're doing a good in place, but a lot of the details could change, and I'll know about it after 4 o'clock today. So that's how quick it's moving. I think maybe one of the big things that I've left out is that if you apply for the disaster recovery loan, that amount can also be rolled over into your PPP loan. So it's 2.5 times your average payroll, plus if you want to roll over the disaster recovery loan. So in theory, you could get the entire amount of both of these forgiven. The other point is that the amount forgiven, normally on most loans, if a loan is forgiven, that's a taxable event to you. Under this program, when the loan is forgiven by the SBA, it is not a taxable event. Finally, the last thing before questions is that also under the SBA regulations for this specific program, no advisor can charge you a fee for giving you advice on these loans. So I can't, your lawyer can't, your CPA can't. The only person who really should be giving you advice is your direct banker, or happy to talk to someone like me, but I can't charge you for it, and I'm not going to charge you for it. So be aware that's actually written in the SBA language itself. If you talk to someone else and they are charging you for it, that in and of itself might make you ineligible for the loan. So try to keep that in mind. And there's a lot of people out there right now giving advice about these things and charging. John, that's the basic overview of the program. I know that at least my perception, at least, is most of our members are not C Corps that have W-2 wages. I perceive that most of our members are independent contractors or sole proprietors within the tax system, and they can work. They just simply, they don't have the rules yet in place. I do know you can't apply till Friday anyway, and hopefully maybe they'll have some of these rules worked out by then.
Okay, great, Stevens. Thank you. Some people were asking about your contact information. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm going to put an overview of what you sent to me in the chat here, or you could also contact me later for it. I'm also going to put some basics and an application with your contact information, if that's okay with you.
It sure is. And John, maybe also, as you know, for most people I'm talking to right now, I'm telling them they really need to go back and talk to their existing bank first.
Okay.
To find out if they're participating in the program, and then I think most of them will be for their existing customers. And if your bank's not, there's several different SBA organizations I know. I'm more than happy to direct them to those. But really, your first step is to go to your existing bank. Again, if they're not, and you know some other banks in the St. Louis area, the next question is to ask them if they already have SBA experience. If they have a professional SBA department, they'll be great to work with. If they don't, this is going to be then challenging, very challenging for them. And I'm not saying they can't get it done, but it will be challenging.
Okay. I'm having a hard time somehow figuring out how to put this in there. What I will do, go ahead and give them your phone number. What I will do, though, is I'm going to put my email address in here, and anybody that would like to have your contact and the application, just send me a request, and I'll send it right out to you, if that's okay with you, Stephen.
Yeah. For me, I have two last names. It's Stevens, Stevens, Plowman, Plowman, Stevens Plowman. Best number is my cell phone, 573-795-6390.
Okay, now we'll have this on our website too. I don't know why I can't get this in here, but I'm just not that technical. So, but is there any other questions that we have right here? Anybody have anything specific they would like to ask Stevens while we have him on the line? Got a smart group.
That's great.
Yeah. No, I know this is changing every day, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know you said at 4 o'clock today you're going to probably be getting some updated information too. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, and just yeah, I would recommend it. Anybody that would like to know any specifics about your personal situation, definitely get a hold of Stevens here. And yeah, if you don't mind, Joe, if you don't mind sending it to my email address, once we turn this off, for some reason all the chat goes away and it's not recorded. So if you don't mind, just send me a request, and I've got the forms right here that Stevens gave me yesterday. So and I'll be happy to get them out there, and I will have them on the website also this afternoon. So. Okay, I filled out a disaster application on SBA for my Airbnb. Was
Yes.
that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good product. I mean, you've got the exact same situation. I will say on the disaster recovery program, that runs till the end of this year, and the PPP program runs to June 30th. So under your disaster recovery, if you are still being hurt, the longer you wait, if you can, the larger the amount you can file for. It's just something to take in consideration.
Excellent. Yeah, it just seems like an awful lot of information, almost overwhelming. I don't know how you could even keep up with it, honestly.
Well, and it keeps changing. That's the challenge. I'm a little concerned that I might be telling you something that's already out of date.
Wow. That's just amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So, okay. The application.
It can't, not only can it, but it almost has to include the utilities and rent. But of the full amount under the PPP program, 75% of it has to go to payroll. Now, that can also be independent contractors. But it has to go to payroll. Then the other 25% is on the rent, utilities, and interest on your loans. What I'm recommending to clients is once they get the funding, they open up a separate checking account for these funds alone and pay those bills out of this checking account. Because to get the loan forgiven 8 weeks from now, you're going to have the proper documentation to the bank to be able to show them that you did spend your money on these items. And if you've got it spread out over 3 or 4 different accounts or with other bills inside of it, it's just going to make it a lot more difficult.
And here's something too. Do you have any specific additional advice for anybody that might have started a new business this year and possibly doesn't have any payroll or previous year's tax returns?
I'm sorry, but it won't work.
Okay. Okay. And wasn't there a date of February 15th on a lot of the? I know with the
yes,
some of it. Yeah.
That's for the PPP program. I'm looking off my notes here for the disaster recovery. They're both working off the date of February 15th.
Okay.
So it's injuries you've suffered since February 15th, and under the PPP program, your business must be in place as of February 15th.
Okay. Okay. And what about processing times for the $10,000 advance DL?
Yeah, I've been told it's taking them as much as 4 weeks to actually get to your application and another 4 weeks to fund it.
Okay. Yeah. What about if you pay a contractor now because the bill is actually due, can it still go against the loan or the grant?
Under the disaster recovery program, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people had that question that I've heard lately. Okay. Um, let's see. You mentioned that sole proprietorships couldn't apply until Friday. What about single member LLCs with no employees? Are they considered sole proprietorships?
No, sir. They can go ahead and apply today.
Okay. Okay. So you want to get your applications in ASAP, it sounds like.
Because there's just a huge amount of applications that are going through right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, 340 billion. That's a lot of bees.
Well, and last Friday there was a lot of nation press that made a big deal out of how many applications had gone through, and the press was making a big deal of the dollar amount. But the dollar amount was something like $2 billion, but it's a $340 billion pool. So I mean, 2 billion out of 340, on a relative basis, is not a lot of money.
Right. Well, just give me the 2 billion and I'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, okay. Yeah, those are some good questions. Anybody else have any particular questions for Stevens while we do have him on the line here? So, like I said, I'll put the information, your contact information, and the application. I'll have it on the website. But if anybody would like to have it before we get it up there this afternoon, go ahead and send me an email, and I will get it right out to you. So you do want to get that information ASAP, and then I guess you could if you would, Stevens, maybe inform us anything major that changes.
I'd be happy to. After the meeting today, John, if there's anything that's significant, I'll be happy to send you an email. Would that work?
That would be great. I'd love to share.
Yeah. A lot of the changes might be internal for bank processing, but if it's stuff that would affect an individual applicant, I'll send you an email.
That'd be great. We really appreciate that, Stevens. Here we go. Let's see here. As an independent contractor, can you apply from 1099s that you have gotten from other companies that you're a freelance or work for?
Yes, the way I understand the program now, and my wife is a court reporter. She's a freelancer. She's the sole proprietor, and I'm going to be applying Friday for her. And the answer, the way I understand it right now, is yes.
Okay, excellent. That's something really to consider then, right there too. That's a lot of us. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if anybody has any last minute questions here, then we do appreciate your time, Stevens. You taking time out to inform us about this.
John, I've enjoyed it, and wish everyone here the best of luck. It's the most unusual business world we've all ever experienced.
Yes. Well, thank you, and wish you the best. And if you don't mind coming back and keeping us informed, we would really appreciate that, Stevens.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.